Alright, so the first thing we want to do when starting to dimension is what? Is to look at the piece we're actually going to build. So if you look here, what are the units going to be? They're going to be in metric. So we're going to make sure that we open up a template that is not imperial. So in this case here, we're going to go look at our file, go to templates, and go down to one of the ones I gave you guys. So we're going to go look for ISO English title block. We're going to open that up and hit the start menu. You're going to notice at the bottom we have a whole bunch of different sheet formats. So what's important to do is to look at the piece to see which file size we need. Is it going to be letter size? Is it going to be legal size? Is it going to be 11 by 17? Is it going to be a bigger paper size? In our cases, we're going to focus on the format A4, right? Because we want this piece here to work inside there. So let's go load the piece. Inside and so the first step, like I showed you before, is to choose the correct paper size. So in our case, we're going to be choosing the letter size. The next step we're going to do is what? We're going to go make sure we add a viewport, which is going to allow us to transfer our drawing into our sheet. So we're going to go type in a couple ways. You could type in viewport and do single and make it inside a box. That was one method. Another is we can make sure that we actually have our viewport layer on. Go to layout and we're going to go make a rectangle object from here to here, and we're going to place our drawing. We saw that? So there was two methods. There's a lot more, but we're going to get one that fits. So if we try one-to-one, it's too small. To one. And if you notice, this is the perfect size for what we need. It's not too big, not too small. Once we have the scale we want, we're going to click the button. What does the lock button do? It's going to make sure that if I click inside the viewport and I move my mouse, it doesn't move the actual drawing. So we're going to undo. What we're going to do now is you double click out, click on the viewport again, command. So even if I click, the view is always going to stay the same. If I click this and you don't know how to get out of it, there's a couple commands to remember. Paper space, and it's going to allow you to get out, or if you want to go back into model space, MS, making them active and deactive. How do I know I'm in model space? If you notice, the view cube popped in and you have the X and Y on the drawing. If you type in paper space, you notice it disappeared. So that's how you know when it's active and not active. The next step to take note of is what? Is to look at the drawing to see the dimensions we're going to put. There's two methods of putting dimensions. The first method is doing them all in the model space. So if you dimension in model space, what's going to happen? You'll notice that if I press annotate and I go from here to here, you see that the drawing, the dimensions are too big. So again, there's two methods of doing it. In most companies, they're going to make you do method 2. So one way of doing it is doing the dimensions directly in the file. The other way of doing it, and the way I want you guys to work on it, is to go inside format A4, go to the right layer. We're going to go look for notes, and we're going to go start annotating from in here. So if we look at the drawing over here, what do we know about the drawing? The outside one. We have smaller 3.5, 2.3, 1.31. So the greater numbers are always placed on the outside of the drawing. which makes it easier to understand and easier on the eyes. So now if I go do dimension, we're going to go see from dimension. We're going to go click on this icon here, and we're going to go all the way to the center of the drawing. But what you notice is we are missing our center lines. So a key thing to do is to add center lines. So how would we do that? Is we're going to do this. We're going to go back, get rid of these guys for now, and we're going to add them back in. So I could go to annotate. So let's go back to paper space. Now I'm outside the drawing, and I go to layout, annotate. You'll see I have center mark. I could go, click, and I have the center mark over here. I could click the arc as well, and I have another center mark is what I need. Now you may be asking, how can I stretch lines out? Or I could do from properties. For example, if I get this one here, if I go up and I just pull it up, let's say this much here. If I click on properties, you're going to see now it tells me the left extension, the right extension, the top extension, and the bottom extension. So we're going to go here and look for the numbers. So if I want to, I could change the top extension or the right. Say I the top to 2 and the bottom to 2. What's that going to do? It's going to adjust the marks that I just placed. I could also, if I want to make it longer as well, go to the other one I made, properties, and do the same extensions that I want. Alright? I can even make the gaps bigger or smaller using the 1 times or 2 times, but we don't need to worry about that right now. Now that we have our center marks, so we see here we have notes. If I go to properties, notes 1, notes 2. So if you wanted to make a different layer for annotation, we could do that as well. So we want it to be the same as notes, but we want a different color. How do we do that? You're going to type in layer in your command line, sorry. You're going to go to notes, which is active, and you're going to go make new. Why did I make sure I was selected on notes first? Because it's going to take the same properties of the notes command. But the only difference is now I could write anno for annotation. I could change the color a little bit darker so we know the difference. So let's go put it at I think that's how it is. So let's go change it to 140, which is a little bit darker. All right? So now that we have that set, we can make it active. So we have our center marks. All we have left to do is to do annotation. But let's go look quickly at our layers before we actually move on again. If you notice, this is set to this one thinner. So we have it when we printed the different thickness. We're going to go to and we're going to our dimension. We're going to go up and up. Notice our dimension is set to 5, which is the correct number. If I look here, we see 5. Now we're going to do the next couple dimensions. We're going to go dimension. From here, we're going to go to in a case like this should be 3.5, but it's showing up as 32.5. It's a little bit of a glitch. All you need to do is go back, erase it, and go the opposite way. If I go from here to here, you'll notice now the number is going to fix itself. It depends on how you're clicking. Sometimes it goes further out. So now we have the 3.25. Now let's go dimension again. We'll go for the next point, which will be from here to here. Go up as well, which would be 2.63. And finally, we'll do the last one, which is from here to here. All right, so now we have our dimensions set. So now we have them placed. If I wanted to move the 5 over to the right, I could just click on it and use the little grabs to push the dimension to more to the right, more to the left, and so forth. So we added our dimensions over there. Now let's add a dimension for the arc. So we're going to go to dimension, and we're going to go click on the actual point, and there you have our radius. And now let's go look over here. We have 2 times 2, 5. So now you see here we have our 0.25. We have 1 here, but instead of putting it both, do 2 times our 0.25. So we're going to go back now, and we're going to add that dimension. Dimension again. We're going to go look for that corner here. We're going to look for it, and wait till it goes a little square, and we're going to choose the action. So we see here now that we have it set to R 0.25. But if we want to look like this, we see it shows 2 times R 0.25, which means we get rid of the decimal point. So how would we fix that? Is we do a simple thing to add the 2 times, is you double click on the dimension. Once you double click on the dimension, you'll see that you have it highlighted. And again, radius 0.25. Decimal point at this, what's more trickier? Open up the dimension styles. Go up a bit, arrow right here. Is going to open up dimension style manager. You're going to maximize it, and you notice that you're using the decimal option. We're going to go do modify, and you're going to go to primary units. So inside the primary units, you see here we have 0 suppression. This is where we get rid of the 0 in the front. If I have it checked here, now the 0.25 will just be 0.25. You could also suppress it at the angular dimensions as well. So I press OK, and I press close. You notice now it went back to 0.25 to make it look exactly like the drawing. Let's go now add the dimension for the diameter over here. Dimension. Again, don't just click, wait till it goes like so, and you could pull it out. We have our right dimension here. And then you guys understand you could add the rest of the dimensions for the other. So we're just missing, if you look, missing, okay, I'll add them in. We're missing 4 more dimensions. Let's just place them in. So again, we zoom in a bit. We click from one corner to this corner. If we see the numbers, which I think this drawing is right. If you notice, what do we notice about this? The center of the circle is set to 1.31. If I go look at the drawing itself, the center of the circle is actually set to 1.5. So this is with this drawing. So what we can do is a difference of, what's the difference? It's 1.5 minus 0.31 is 19. So we're going to go back to the model space. We're going to grab this guy here. Press the button. From the center, we're going to move how much? 0.19. Enter. Now nudged it more towards the right. Let's go back to our A4 format. And you notice the dimensions didn't change. But now we're going to go add the dimension that was wrong before. And they'll go from here to here. Should be 15? No. What happened is it grabbed further out. So what we do, not hard, just press escape and do it again. From one corner, grab to the next. And if you notice, now it adjusted itself back to the right dimension. Grab it back, pull it back down like so. And I could grab it and pull it towards the right like we had in the drawing. So we have that dimension set. And and find dimensions. If it's too close, we just really spaced when you do them. But overall, you see we have our drawing complete. If I go look, all the dimensions are correct and in the same similar location. Let's just say we had to add a symbol to this drawing. We don't have to do it, but let's pretend like we need to do it. All you need to do is, again, double click on the actual annotation. Click inside. We don't erase the actual dimension. And you could go to symbols. In here, you could load multiple different symbols that you need. Once we start doing the mechanical later on, you're going to need some mechanical symbols. So we do other, which is going to open up the character map. And you see here we have the ones that you need. So for example, you have the depth, where is it? Going down. A whole bunch of symbols you're going to need are placed all in this drawing here. If I wanted to add this one here for the whole depth, I could press insert, select it, copy it, close this, and just do Control V. And now I have that symbol placed inside my drawing. If I click on it, it's there. All right. If I don't need that, I'm going to double click back and get rid of the symbol. Okay. I could always override this. If I wanted this to be 2, I could just double click and just erase everything and radius 2. Does that mean it's correct? No, it's just you're overriding the text, so I don't want you doing that. But if you ever needed to, you have that over there. So now let's just say my text size is too big and I want to modify that. How would I change that? It's not hard. You don't change one at a time because it has to be all the same. What you should do is you go to type in ddim at the bottom, or what you're going to do is up here the arrow and brings you back to the same place. The dimension style manager. You're going to modify. You're going to go to, if you're saying it's too big and you want to make it a little bit smaller, which you don't need to because that was the correct size, you could put it to 2. Just remember, whatever you change in the text here, you should always change it. You should always change it also to the arrow size as well, so they're both the same size. If I press close now, you'll notice that my text got a little bit smaller. Keep it at 3 because that's the size it should be. Once you're done dimensioning and adding the symbols and so forth, the next step you should do is start modifying your title blocks. This is important. So what you're going to do here is fill it in. For example, finish. We don't have a finish, so don't just leave white. You're going to go on applicable. Revision. If this is the first revision, you could do 0, 0 if there's none. Weight. We don't have weight yet, so we're going to go. So I could keep back clicking, or if I know, I could go through here and look. Go to material. Just erase here. Once I press apply, I'm going to update it on the other side. Drawing number, we're going to change this to, I think, 4. The date, you're going to put today's date. So in this case, would be 10/29/2019. The drawing, you're going to put your name here. So for example, my name's the first one. Design, you can put your name, like for example, Rad. ID number, whatever it may be. If your name is super long, just make it small so it fits within the drawing. Eventually, you'll put your initials. And then who reviewed it. So in this case, if your neighbor is reviewing your drawing, review number, but it's not the same. So we filled in this information. Then we need to go into the project information. So the project, you would be calling them this practice assignments. And for the title, if we have a 3-line title, then we use all 3. If we don't, we just go here, erase this line here, and erase this line here. So we stay in the middle. And this one here, you could go put the name of the file. So in this case here, 103. All right, and you press OK. So now we have our title block in, we have our everything done, our drawing set. What's the next step to do is we're going to do the print preview. Okay, and you notice we have already the preset settings because we use the template. All we need to do is just load the PDF. So we'll do Microsoft Print to PDF. Letter size is correct. Monochrome is good. The window should be, let's do test it out. Preview first. You notice that it goes perfectly within the window. Fit to pay, everything looks perfect. If I press preview, this is where I would look at it. If I see it here, when I go print on the computer, it's going to show up as well. If when you press print, you do not see a dimension, but you see it on the other, it could mean it is on def point. What does that mean, def point? For example, let's go back a one. Let's go change this 3.25, for example. Let's go change it to a construction layer. Right? It doesn't look like a different. Did it change? Yes. Right? We see it. Change the layer. Everything looks fine. Let's go do P again. Let's do previous because we already had it set up. And now let's go do preview. What do you notice? That it's missing. Why? Because it's set to do not print. So construction lines are mostly used for references. So you don't want that construction line to pop up. So all it is, you go back. You go check the layer it's on. And you could put it back to notes. Again, if I go layers, you see, layer. You see here that if I look at construction, it has a little symbol saying do not print. You have it on this one and also the def point. If I want my dimensions not to print, for example, I will go to Annotation and put do not print. And right now when you go print, none of the dimensions will show up. But we don't want that, so let's go change it back. That's good. Let's go make our dimensions a little bit more lighter. Put it at 120. Close it back. And let's go print. So the pop keep getting a printer. If you don't want to see that pop-up, is if you do previous and everything is set, just do apply to layout. Now watch, if I go press print again, every time I start, it's going to have the same settings I did on the last one. Previous is the one that you just did, and apply it if you want to keep it as is. Then you have the different plot styles again if you want with layers. So if I go here now, you see now it's in color. And if I go back to the plot style that I needed, like monochrome, you see now it's black and white. This is exactly when it prints. We see the thicker line we chose for the outline is thicker, the thin line, and so forth. All right, so that's what I want to show you guys about dimensioning and setting up your sheets. So once you're content, all you need to do is press OK, and it's going to save the PDF. You're going to save the PDF with the file, so you have the CAD file and the PDF. If ever you need to print it, you can print it to review and so forth. Let's say I did the PDF, I made someone else, Luke, reviewed it, and he noticed a mistake. A good thing to start doing, just to have up to date, is you could go back now to revision and put it 01. So you know that you changed it already once, that this is the most active one. You don't change the date. The date stays the same day you started, and you do revision 1. When you're in a company later on, you'll start using something called rev. Why? So you know exactly what you changed. So go here, for example, and let's say I change this dimension. You would make a little rectangle around the dimension showing that that's the change that you did. So if someone's looking at the drawing, they don't have to guess to say, okay, what changed? They'll just put a revision cloud around that item, and it's complete. Right? So thank you very much.